again, everybody, it's Old Fan. Well, thank you to everybody so much for your response to my first video on this channel. I'm glad to see that everybody enjoyed my review of the 6-point design LaRue Eric plushie. I hope that I convinced at least a couple of you to order one for yourselves. I will put all of the ordering information in the describey. So I just so happened to put on my Phantom of the Paradise t-shirt, and I figured, yep, this is a good time to make another Phantom video. But first, a story. I promise I'll make it quick. So when I was about 12 years old or so, I seriously started to get into collecting Phantom of the Opera stuff. And what I really went after was stuff like posters and lobby cards for all the different Phantom of the Opera movies. Now, I'm not sure if the same is true now, but back in those old days, the easiest film to find memorabilia from just so happened to be the Hammer horror version from 1962, also known as the Herbert Lom version. And it was really funny because at the time, the Herbert Lom movie was actually nearly impossible to find. I searched years and years for a copy of that film before I was finally able to find it on VHS. And by the time I finally found it on VHS, I already had a really great collection of promotional items for the film. And today, I'm going to show you what's arguably the best of all of them. But before I show you that, I am going to show you one other thing from the movie just because it's right next to me. This poster here is called A Day Bill, and it's from the Australian release of the film. I was lucky enough to find this in a poster shop that's no longer in Chicago for about $25, which is an excellent deal for this thing. The most unusual tale of terror and love ever told. Fantastic image of the Phantom here. Then you have Professor Petrie at his organ with Christine. Great image of the terrified crowd here. Now, the artwork on these two didn't quite come out so good. And as you can see, it's Christine that has the deformity in this film. Just look at that arm and that hand. So yeah, that thing is pretty glorious and awesome, but enough of that for now. Let's move on to the real prize. And here it is, the Showman's Manual, essentially the press kit for the 1962 Phantom. So this is basically a catalog of everything that a theater owner could order to promote the 1962 version of Phantom with. So it includes things like posters and lobby cards and a bunch of other crazy stuff that I'm going to show you as well. Let's take a look at some of the copy on the front cover though first. Once in every generation comes a tale of such classic horror that even its terror fascinates, while it holds you forever captive within its frightening power. The greatest thrill classic of all time. It's so adorable how they try and make this movie seem scary. It's actually been a while since I looked on the inside of this thing, so let's give nostalgia a nice tap on the ass. So the first two pages are essentially just articles about the film. Let's look at some of the headlines. New screen version of The Phantom of the Opera is topper of classic thrillers. The Phantom of the Opera returns in new and lavish version, cloaked in color. Picture of Herbert Lom. Picture of Heather Sears. Picture of Michael Gaw unmasking the Phantom. A picture of all three of the first Phantoms, excluding the really obscure ones and all of their leading ladies. Lom takes it on the lam and eventually becomes the new Phantom of the Opera. Here's something crediting the Herbert Lom version with being the third version of Phantom. Not exactly true, but we'll forgive it. New version of famed thriller classic adds musical spectacle. So here on the next page, we start in with images of all of the posters and lobby cards that you can buy. Here's some of the smaller ones. This one is pretty cool. It's not exactly like the Australian Day Bill that I have, but it's a little bit similar. I like the headline on this one. He hid behind a face that was not his, until her beauty stripped away his curtain of evil, his mask of horror. The next two pages also includes images of other paper promotional items that you could get for the movie. Posters, lobby cards. I guess this is an assortment of different little elements from the advertising that you could get individually. Another great headline here for this poster. Out of the hellfire of horror unimaginable rises the figure of terror incarnate. I don't know about you guys, but I didn't quite think Professor Petrie was a figure of terror incarnate, but we'll let them have their little fantasy. This one right here is particularly nice. I like the headline on this one. Driven by hate to live behind a mask of horror, driven by love to steal the beauty the world denied him. That's actually quite nice, quite LaRue in a way. I like the one staring, leering eye on this one. The Phantom of the Opera. No words ever struck such terror in the human heart. No tale ever brought to life such unimaginable horrors. See, it's stuff exactly like this that really sends home exactly how much things have changed in Phantom Land. Can you imagine if they used wording like this to try and sell Love Never Dies? It's the next two pages where some of the best stuff is advertised. The Phantom of the Opera, exploitation for box office action. So you could order a free set of television spots, radio transcripts. You could get the entire front of your theater decked out in Phantom of the Opera stuff. If I had seen a theater decked out in all this in real life as a kid, my head would have exploded. My face would have just melted right off. You could also get a Phantom of the Opera stencil for some guerrilla-type advertising. It's this over here that's the real showstopper, though. Book promotion! Did you guys know that they actually put out an edition of the LaRue novel to advertise for the 1962 version? Has anybody out there ever seen or owned a copy of this? Because I've looked for it for years and never, ever, ever been able to find it. The 1925 version had its own release of the LaRue novel, and so did the 1943 with Claude Rains version, but this is truly a little-known edition of the LaRue novel. It's definitely one I've always wanted to have in my collection. I think that it's amazing that they even attempted to tie in the novel with this particular film. We also have things down here like banners and pendants that you could get. I always kind of want to find this one right here. That's pretty neat. The last two pages here includes the other thing that I was desperate to find as a kid. I'd still love to find it, and that's a giant standee that you could make of the Herbert Lom Phantom. Some of the artwork for this particular movie was amazing. Love or hate this film, the artwork was incredible on some of the posters, and this one was really one of the more striking ones. I'm not sure how well the camera's picking it up, but this was a beautiful, beautiful image. And to get a giant standee version of that, that would have been unbelievable. I'll just quickly go through some of the rest of the things included here. This was a advertisement for a contest that you could have in your theater. You could print out a large one of these and have contestants guess who the three different Phantoms are and who their leading ladies were played by. We also have things like door hangers, special alert, watch out for the Phantom of the Opera. Also free, strong-selling, eye-attracting ad art available. I think these were either really high-quality posters or maybe even lithographs or something of some of the more gorgeous art from this film. Love to find these as well. And here is the special composite mat. Everything you need for a complete campaign, all in one mat. Beneath his mask, the grotesque face of horror unimaginable. Inside his heart, the desperate desire for beauty and love, the Phantom of the Opera. And last but not least, we have the back of the manual, which just basically shows some more posters, all very, very gorgeous, as you can see. So in a nutshell, yeah, that's my Showman's Manual press kit for the 1962 version of Phantom, starring Herbert Lom. I found it in a memorabilia store called Yesterday's in Chicago for a total of $10. If you've watched this video and you think, wow, that is awesome, I'd like to try and find one for myself. They are rare, however, they are not super, super duper rare. I have seen them pop up on eBay in all different kinds of price ranges. I think the most expensive one I've seen was $60, and I know I've seen other ones for about 20 bucks. There is an alternate version of this one available that has a separate insert, which I believe has a Phantom mask that you can cut out and wear. Unfortunately, don't have any images of that alternate version, and I actually may be somewhat mistaken in calling it an alternate version. It may have just been that this particular version had that mask insert in it at one point, and it's just no longer there. But anyway, the 1962 version of the Phantom of the Opera certainly wasn't the best version ever made, but it was very, very interesting. It was a very interesting, weird time in Phantom history, and it gave us a lot of interesting memorabilia to collect years later. So once again, this has been Old Fan. Thank you very much to everybody for watching. I will be back with more Phantom of the Opera reviews very soon. All the best, and bye for now.
All of this by Old Fan.